Hey, welcome to episode 3. We're going to spend the entire episode this time just talking about my MRI images. After looking at them, I felt like it was going to be an important thing to keep them standalone and easy to search. I didn't want to bury them in another episode, and honestly, I didn't want to make another episode super long to be able to fit in what all we need to talk about. So let's jump into it. Real quick, what we're looking at here is a Phillips MRI unit. This is very similar to the model that was used for my MRIs. If you'll recall back in episode 1, it was not a comfortable experience for me. But after all the complaining, now that I've seen the images, it was 100% worth it. I don't regret it one bit. If they ask me to come back and do some more images because they found something or are interested in continuing research on my muscular dystrophy, I would do it in a heartbeat. It is momentary for something that could be lasting. And that's what we're going to do here on YouTube today. I'm going to make these images lasting so that other people can look at them, research them, and see what muscular dystrophy looks like from the inside out. So just real quick, if you don't know what MRI is, it stands for Magnetic Resonance Imaging, and it functions by manipulating the magnetic field in our bodies. We all have a natural magnetic field. It's very weak. You don't ever realize it's there. But by utilizing powerful electromagnets, they can actually align that magnetic field and then manipulate specific areas of that field to give off radio waves that pass through our body and out into the device. So just like a camera captures an image using light waves, this captures an image using radio waves. What you end up with is a 2D image of a 3D object. These novelty coasters do a pretty good job representing that. So when you stack them together, you can see you actually do have a 3D representation of a brain. But just like the MRI, we can come in here and take a snapshot of one of those slices, pull it out to the side, and you can actually see the tissue inside and get more detail about what's going on inside that part of the body. So we're going to hop over here and I'm going to show you an example of what a relatively healthy human calf should look like in an MRI. And we're going to talk about what we're looking at so that when we jump into my images, you'll have a reference point. You can go ahead and ignore these arrows. This particular example was kind of the best I could find, but they are pointing out some inflammation that this patient was dealing with. We're just going to ignore that. These two images up top are going to be the main ones. You will see this image as well in mine as part of this, the top right image. This is going to be, the top left here is going to be a axial shot. So that is actually looking up or down the length of the leg. And so we're taking a slice at a time as you pass through the leg. So this is the tibia, the shin bone, and the fibula, the calf bone, to give you an idea of what we're looking at here. So this is the patient's shin, and then this is the calf back here. What happens when that radio wave passes through tissue is the density of the tissue affects how that wave is received by the machine. This dark black circle is bone matter, so very dense, not a lot of activity from protons there, so it's not really giving off its own radio frequency either. The darker gray area is going to be the relatively healthy muscle tissue, and the very white or lighter areas are going to be representative of fat deposits. So as you look, you can see detail, you can see muscle fibers, the streaks that you're used to seeing in any rendering or picture of muscle in a health book. And I want you to keep that in mind when we look at ours, because when we're looking at my images, you're going to find that a lot of that definition is hard to find. So you're going to get the gray deposits, you're going to get the healthier tissue, but it is really getting to a point where it's hard to discern what is the good muscle versus the bad muscle. So let's go ahead and jump over there and take a look. Just to give you a quick rundown, if you've never looked at an MRI, the data in the top left here basically details the signal strength, the intensity that they're taking these images with. We're not going to worry about that. It gets a little too technical. If you're curious about how it works, feel free to message me or drop a question in the comments. I can at least point you in the right direction to really learn some cool stuff about MRIs. What we want to focus on is the main image here in the center and this image in the lower right. So this image in the lower right is going to act as our roadmap. Each of these hash marks represents a single image slice that has been taken, and the long line in the middle represents which slice we're currently looking at. So right now it looks like we are about 5 or 6 hash marks in, so 5 or 6 snapshots into the leg. I'm going to go ahead and continue to step forward through those images. Currently displayed, you can kind of see the muscle tissue starting to show up and the fibrous texture of that muscle showing up, along with some streaking from veins and whatnot as we're getting through the skin tissue layers, the dermis and epidermis. So you can start seeing that darker gray showing up on the left leg here. This is the left leg and right leg, but we can start seeing gray, darker gray muscle tissue forming. I want you to pay attention to these streaks, this cloudiness like this as we move through. You're going to see a lot of that, and that is actually the fat invading into the muscle tissue. So this is actually the fibula. The first time I looked at this image, I assumed that this was a gap forming around the muscle based on the atrophy of these two muscles. At first glance, I thought it was separating. I'm not sure if that's the case. With it being a 2D image, this just may be the way that the muscle and the bone is interacting here. As I said, darker areas are actually denser material, so I would assume that is actually the edge of the bone interacting with the muscle, not a gap. So there is more bone showing up, and now you can really kind of see that muscle, the shape of the muscle, and all of that fat tissue that has intermingled with the muscle and really swirled in. So we continue to move forward, you'll see the fibula on the right leg. And this is about the core of my legs. You'll notice that that calf definition never showed up like on the healthy patient. This is the extent of my calf muscles. They do not go past this outer line here at all. And in fact, based on the MRI, they barely go outside of the confines of the two bones within the leg. So here we do see that I've got quite a bit of healthy muscle tissue left in the inside of those legs. The left leg is obviously still healthier than the right leg, which I already knew. The right leg is definitely more greatly affected. In the last video, I showed you how I'm dealing with foot drop because I've lost so much strength in that right leg that I can't even lift my toe anymore. The weight of the shoe actually affects how bad that drops. And here it's visually obvious that there is a larger amount of effect going on in the right versus the left. This healthy muscle tissue is what I am trying to save. My activity level is going to determine how fast this deteriorates and how fast this fat tissue invades. So we'll go ahead and keep moving forward here. And you will start seeing the tibia show up, and then we are at the front of the leg now, the shin. So I will just pass back through these real quick in case anybody wants to pause or rewind or whatever to see a specific image. I'll just kind of step evenly so you can find those. And then we will jump to the axial view. What we're looking at here is from the bottom up, left leg, right leg. So just think of it as you're looking at the sole of my feet here, right and left. This dark area here would be the Achilles tendon, and that is why it's so dense back there. The larger bone here, obviously the tibia, that shin bone, and this is the base of the fibula, the calf bone. So I'll go ahead and just slowly start moving through here. This set of images it was definitely the most impactful to me, and the reason I decided that these needed to get out there. I think what you're about to see, I think you'll agree that it is undeniable the impact that fat tissue is having on my muscle as we pass through these. So I'm going to go ahead and start moving through, and I'm just going to keep a steady pace here. You can obviously see the gray muscle tissue forming and those white streaks continuing to be apparent. And as I mentioned, that healthy muscle tissue does not really get very far outside the safe confines of those bones. Again, this is the left leg, which is stronger, and the right leg that is weaker. And it is very evident the amount of fat tissue that is invading in that space and causing the atrophy. So we're going to keep going. And as we get to the top here, the amount of fat, I don't know how much of it is normal as we get closer to the knee joint. Your muscles do come to a connection point. I obviously can assume that it is not this level of fat. That is due to the invasive nature of my disease. But, I'm not sure what that point on a normal MRI would look like. It's actually harder than I thought to find specific examples of MRI images. So yeah, I'll just pass through these, going back the other direction real quick. Again, if anybody wants to pause, rewind, locate a specific slice. If there are any MRI techs watching this or doctors watching this that really understand how to read this, I would love to hear your commentary on these images. I'd love to get some feedback on that, so feel free to message me or leave a message in the comments. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask those in the comments or message me. I'm very open to talk about my disease and how it's affecting me. I feel like if we don't talk about it, we're not going to learn anything from it, and we're never going to be able to get closer to a cure if we don't get that discussion started. So definitely don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any. And we are back at the ankle joint again. So I'm going to go ahead and call it right there. I appreciate you guys joining me for another video. Hopefully you learned something here. Hopefully you have a better understanding of what my type of muscular dystrophy is doing. Again, as I've mentioned in the previous video, what I have is called neutral lipid storage disease with myopathy. And what it does is it deposits excess fat into my muscle tissue and does not allow the muscle to do anything with it. So over time, it takes over the muscle and causes the atrophy, which we saw here in these images. Anyway, guys, next videos, we're going to get back to the storytelling and the running around. I've got some good trips planned, so here in the next few videos, hopefully you guys are going to start seeing some more fun activities, some more adventurous places. Stick with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Those subscriptions and the view counts are what keep me going. Those are instant motivation to me, and I really appreciate y'all following me and giving me some views. So we'll see you soon.